welcome back to Finding Fashion. Today I'm so excited to welcome Carly Laing, who is brand manager at Boux Avenue, to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me, Carly.
No problem. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Great to have you on. So can you tell me a little bit of what it is that you do at Boux Avenue and what being a brand manager involves?
Yeah, sure. So at Boux, I guess my kind of core role at the minute involves working very closely with influencers. That is the bulk of what I do. So all the campaigns that we're working on, new product launches and things like that, all is heavily supported by influencer collaborations. At the moment, we're working with around about 25 influencers per week. So a lot of what I do is centered around coordinating those collaborations. But then I also work on the actual campaigns themselves. So we very recently launched a campaign called I Am Who I Am, which was all around International Women's Month, well, day, but we basically did it for the whole month. And so it's basically, I guess, helping to plan those campaigns, making sure we've got all of the assets that we need, working on the communications and all the different, I guess, elements that go into a campaign is, I guess, a snapshot of what I do.
Well, you must be so busy all the time. Like, how do you get it all done working with 25 influencers a week?
It's a lot. It is a lot, but I have a really good team that I work alongside, so we share the load. But yeah, it is busy. It's fast paced, but I really like that. I prefer to be busy. I like to have lots to do. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, you studied English language and media studies at the University of Brighton, which is an amazing place to study.
It is.
Is there like a particular part of your course that shaped your move into PR and marketing?
I really wish that I could say that there was, that there wasn't. If I'm being completely honest with you, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. When I knew I wanted to go to university, I didn't know what I wanted to do career-wise. So I basically just picked the subjects that I was good at and that I thought could open up a lot of doors for me. So I knew I really liked English language, and I was half decent at it. And I really liked the idea of media, and I thought there are lots of things that I could go into with that. So I certainly didn't go into university thinking public relations or brand management is what I essentially want to do. I guess it just kind of I kind of fell into PR, really. I really loved the brand I really loved the media side of the degree. I found it very interesting. But really it was I knew I wanted to do something in fashion, but I didn't really know what. And it was really my internships that shaped, I guess, my career path and helped me to decide what I wanted to do. And I just so wished that I could have been that person that knew from the get-go exactly what they wanted to do, but I really didn't.
Well, you had a pretty amazing start in the world of internships by starting at Vogue as an intern, which is the pinnacle. How did you secure such an incredible first foray into the industry? Was it really nerve-wracking?
It was pretty nerve-wracking, yeah. I'll be honest, it was. I literally just applied. As I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to go into after university. I had a feeling that it was possibly something to do with fashion, and really I just went online and Vogue was the first thing I thought of, and I saw that they did an internship and I thought, wow, that would be amazing. What a great place to start. And I just simply applied and got a call back and they interviewed me, and that was it. And I mean, I don't know, obviously this was a fair few years ago now. I don't know if it's the same kind of system that they have, but it was I think it was like a 4-week placement, and they have people that intern the whole time, the whole way throughout the year, and you have various people interning at the same time, but everybody's at a different stage in their internship. So the person that's been there for the longest, if they're in their 4th week, they're teaching the people that are in their 1st and 2nd week. So it kind of like manages itself. But it does mean that they do have, or did have, lots of people coming through the door interning, which is amazing. And yes, I have to say, I was pretty petrified initially. The first week was, I would say, an eye-opener. I probably went in a bit bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And it's definitely a little bit Devil Wears Prada, if I'm honest. But it's incredible. I was in complete awe of all of the journalists there. I mean, they're just so influential, and everybody wants to know their opinion on things, and you know, they're just being sent things from PRs left, right and centre, and I just found it a really inspiring environment and place to be. I mean, I had lots of very funny experiences go on when I was there, and one in particular was, I took ages to plan like the outfit that I would wear on my first day, because I just so wanted to look really chic. And at the time, those really long pencil skirts were in fashion. So the ones that were almost like your kind of calf length pencil, really quite tight. So I wore, it sounds horrendous, but I wore that skirt with a shirt, and I thought, yeah, this is a good outfit. And as an intern, you can't, there was 3 of us all at one desk. We had to share one desk, and it had a phone which always rang, and our desk was just surrounded by boxes of samples, and it was a little bit chaotic, but it was our job to obviously organise all the samples and man the phone. And I swear I'd only been there for a couple of hours, and the other interns disappeared, and there wasn't really anyone else in the office, and I was obviously tinkering with samples and whatnot, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and I sort of looked around hoping that someone else would pick it up, and there was no one there to pick it up. So I thought, right, this is me. And there was a couple of other people sort of towards the back of the office, but they were quite senior, so I thought, well, I can't really ask them. And anyway, the phone's going, and I was told that you absolutely had to answer the phone, and there was all these boxes in front of the desk, and I just could not get my leg over the box to answer the phone because of this goddamn skirt. And I was sort of doing these maneuvers, like trying to get myself over, and I just couldn't. And in the end, I had to just hoik it right up and get my leg over the box. And it was all very unattractive, and I just remember cringing the whole time. But it was a proper Devil Wears Prada moment. And I was traveling up from Hampshire, so that's where I was based at the time. So I was having to get the train really, really early in the morning to get up there for 9. And I remember one dreaded morning, I think I must have slept through my alarm and woke up about 20 minutes before my train was going to leave. So I literally threw my clothes on, grabbed my makeup bag, ran to the train, and managed to make the train by some miracle. Got on the train and realised I had my makeup bag, but I didn't have a mirror. And I also didn't have a hairbrush in my bag. So I basically had to turn up to Vogue with makeup thrown at my face, which I did on the train with no mirror and no hairbrush. And I just thought, this is just not what you want to be doing when you're in Vogue, where everybody is just immaculate. Oh, it was horrendous. But the first week was, it was definitely challenging in terms of settling in, but it only took a week, and then I absolutely loved it. And I didn't want to go at the end of the placement. It was fab. And amazing. It was such an amazing experience, and it was one of the best things I think I've ever done, because the minute that's on your CV, I mean, it's a talking point anywhere you go for an interview. And yeah, it was it was brilliant, and it was 100% the best probably placement that I did. And it was there that I spent a lot of time speaking to PRs on the phone, and I had an exiting interview at the end of my placement with the managing editor, and she said to me, "Oh, what do you think you'd like to do for your career?" And I said, "I don't really know. I think I want to work in fashion." And she said, "Well, I think you'd be really good at PR, Carly." And I said, "Okay, PR it is." So yeah, ended up then doing lots of internships in PR, and it's been, well, I think I've worked in PR now for over 10 years, and now I'm sort of more leaning towards the social media, influencer marketing, and brand management side. So it's been a fun journey.
Vogue obviously opened some incredible doors for you, because you went on to work for like H&M and Miss Selfridge Interning. Did you find that kind of working at those high street brands like really aligned you aligned yourself with kind of affordable fashion?
Yeah, it really did. I can't remember the exact order now that I did my placements in, but when I was at Vogue, obviously I was sort of surrounded by luxury fashion predominantly, and I think it may have been straight after then I did an internship at a designer brand called Alberta Ferretti, and that brand was lovely. I mean, the clothes were beautiful, and the PRs pretty much just kind of sat and answered the phone, and they had all kinds of A-list celebrities calling up wanting to wear the dresses for red carpet events and whatnot. And I think we spent most of our time steaming dresses and putting them in the right order of the lookbook order, and it was interesting, but I didn't feel overly inspired or excited by it. So I then went on to, I think my next internship was probably H&M, and I just preferred the atmosphere. I preferred the work. I preferred the fact that it just felt like a lot more proactive. You know, you really had to work hard and be coming up with innovative ideas, and I guess just really sort of pushing the brand and thinking about ways to increase exposure. Whereas with a lot of the designer brands, I felt from the experience that I had, it just didn't feel like the same kind of work. And so yeah, I felt that high street was more in line with what I was interested in. So from there I went to Miss Selfridge, and I absolutely loved it there. I did quite a long internship there, actually. I think it was a few months actually. And yeah, I just felt as though I naturally fitted in better in that environment.
I think when you're that kind of age, and I know exactly how you feel, because when I started out and I, did my first work experience at Glamour, which I kind of feel the same as you did, like with Vogue, I felt completely, by the whole experience, but it was amazing. But when I then went to work for like high street kind of affordable like magazines, and I was more magazine side than PR, it made sense. It just kind of clicked with me, because I just thought, I'm this girl, I do shop on the high street. I do, love affordable fashion. And I think I just really resonated with that kind of sector of the fashion industry.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
So after that, you landed your first kind of full-time role at Fat Face, I think. And that was your like real break into the industry. And I was reading up on your LinkedIn, and it was saying that you were there to nurture press relationships and work on PR activity. So how did you kind of work to create PR strategy that sat alongside their like brand campaigns?
So Fat Face was a really interesting brand to start out at, and I actually started doing an internship there, and then I got offered a permanent role. But when I started there, Fat Face was predominantly known for its events. So they used to do lots of surfing events, kite surfing events. It was very much, I guess, sort of that sporting arena, and that was predominantly what it was known for. And it was the brand strategy was to slightly move away from that. They stopped doing their sort of extreme sports. They stopped aligning themselves with extreme sports people, and they wanted to make it more active lifestyle. So it felt more inclusive, and you didn't necessarily have to be a kite surfer to buy into the brand. So when I joined, it was a complete change of strategy for PR. It was less about the events and more about the product itself. They're very much a brand that puts a lot of thought into every single element of every single piece of clothing that they produce. They're very much about, we are a brand, not a retailer. So everything is designed and created with a specific purpose in mind, and all the different trims and buttons, and they put so much thought and effort into that. And it was all about kind of building stories around each of those individual pieces, and how all of the product gets better with age. And it was, I guess in a sense it was about re-educating the customer in terms of what the brand was about, and also it was about getting the product in front of fashion journalists, which was quite a challenge, to be honest, because I think most people at the time just saw Fat Face as the brand that perhaps their mum and dad wore. So to actually kind of get it into the fashion press was quite tricky, but it was a great challenge actually, and a really good, I think, challenge for me to tackle at the beginning of my career. But we kept the bread and butter, kind of what Fat Face was about. We kept that, I guess, as part of the strategy and the communication indefinitely. So we would do things like we did press trips around London in a VW camper van, and we had an old American school bus that we decked out like a showroom with loads of cool product in there. Actually, in fact, the camper van was the best, because we had all these rails of bikinis, and it was all VM'd, all lovely inside. And I remember my boss was driving, and my job was to be in the back holding all of the product in place as we sort of go around all the roads, all like the major roads like Oxford Street, in this little cute little vintage VW camper. And there I am, literally trying to hold up all the displays so that I wouldn't have to put it all back together again when we get to the next publishing house. So yeah, it was great. I mean, loads of personality. It was loads of fun, and a really interesting brand to start out at, and interesting to see that kind of shift in terms of the way the brand was being portrayed, I guess.
So coming across to Boux Avenue, where you are a Boux Avenue devotee,
yeah.
You've kind of risen the ranks there at Boux Avenue, and you started as senior PR exec, and then PR manager, senior PR manager, and now brand manager. What do you think is key to your success of understanding Boux Avenue and the brand so well, but also to progressing through the company?
So I guess I'm very lucky in a sense, because the role that I came in to do at Boux as PR, I had to kind of immerse myself in a lot of different areas of the business. So I would work very closely with the design team, with the buying team, so I could really kind of understand the product, the objectives of the departments, who they're targeting, the customer base, what they love, what they don't. And I think that really helps. Plus, Boux, they're very good at giving you a very thorough onboarding. So we spent time in stores, again, working with the customer face to face, learning things like how they merchandise the stores, how they gift wrap the product. Things like that are really important to Boux. Again, it's a brand that's very much about attention to detail, and it really sort of sets it apart from just a high street retailer. So it's been very much about learning all the different elements of the brand, really immersing myself in those different elements, really understanding the customer as much as possible, and being very close to those different departments that essentially are the DNA of the brand. So at my first stint at Boux, I was there for, I think, just over 4 years. I left for a couple of years and then have not long been back in my current role as brand manager. Previously my role there was very much around public relations, so trying to get the brand into the media as much as possible. I did a lot of celebrity shoots, big launch events, working very closely with Theo Fetus for new store launches, things like that. So it was a very varied role. But when I was there previously, we actually didn't do a huge amount with influencers. And it's kind of been since I left Boux and have done a couple of roles in other places that I've, I guess, seen such change in the industry and how much influencer marketing has now become such a major part of the strategy, that I kind of realized that was an area that I wanted to become more involved in. And so I'm very lucky to have been able to come back to Boux and have more involvement in that side of things. And now it's a major piece of the puzzle now at Boux, which is really exciting.
So looking back as a Boux Avenue devotee, thinking about, I've had some questions from my students, which I've got to ask you, I'll get in trouble.
Sure.
It's so hard for them to get internships now. And Boux Avenue, they're really proactive in advertising their vacancies on LinkedIn, which I've noticed. But what do you think, like, considering that you've kind of risen through the ranks there and you know the brand really well and you know the company really well, like, what do you think that an ideal candidate portfolio would look like when they're applying for a role at Boux Avenue? Is there like particular experience that you look for example?
Well, I mean, it obviously depends largely on the role that they're applying for. But in terms of my areas, so PR and brand, I think anything fashion related in terms of experience is really important. If they have any PR or brand experience, or I guess working with influencers, that's really useful. But what I would say is really a great way to kind of set yourself apart from the rest is to just be a bit creative with your CV, because I think gone are the days where you can just submit your CV in a standard format and hope to get a call back. I mean, it's always been incredibly competitive, but I think now more than ever it is seriously competitive. And I really do sympathize, because I think it must be incredibly difficult to get any kind of cut through with the huge volumes of other people and the other applicants. But I think things like making your CV kind of look as though it's in keeping with the brand design and tone of voice, that kind of thing really helps, because it just shows that the applicants are doing some research and they're really understanding the brand and they're trying to connect with it as much as possible. And I think, just simple things like making your CV look like something from our website, for example, or a press release or something like that just really helps. I also think it's tricky because it means spending quite a bit of time on each individual application, but I think if you can do things like use your initiative and maybe write a little press release, or if you look on the website and see that we're launching or we've just launched a new swim collection, having a think about what influencers you would recommend for that collection. I think just using a bit of initiative, doing a little bit of work perhaps before you've been asked to do some work is it really shows that the candidate is really keen and driven and has kind of got off their own back to do something to set them apart from the rest. I realise it's really difficult because I imagine they're applying for quite a few different places and they can't really spend ages and ages on one individual job role. But I do think that it's really important to sort of show that you're going above and beyond.
Once you get them through the door, hopefully when proper internships come back, but what do you think makes an intern stand out?
I mean, I think the obvious things are that you just have to be really willing to get your hands dirty and to just sort of hit the ground running and just be open to kind of helping with lots of different things, being really eager to learn. I think people that ask questions and are really interested in understanding as much as possible about the brand and the role, that really sets interns apart, I would say. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, kind of once you're through the door, it really is just a case of being as helpful as you can. And yeah, I mean, it's hard work. Interning is really hard work. We've all been there. It's a bit of a tough slog, but I think that the benefits of interning are just unbelievable, and it really is a great opportunity for the interns as well to understand what kind of career path they want to go into. As I said, it was through my internships that I really understood the exact kind of career path that I wanted to go down. So I think it's a great way to test out the industry and test out different types of brands and different departments to really understand what is right for you. And I think that's what they should really use it for. You know, it's not just about getting good brands on your CV, but it's very much about understanding what career you want. And the best piece of advice that someone ever gave me throughout my career is that you have to own your own career, because no one's gonna handhold you and say this is the way, and later down the line this is what you'll really enjoy. You have to just figure it out for yourself, and you have to make sure that you network as much as possible, and you learn as much as you can, and you absorb as much as you can. And then I think, as we both discussed in terms of finding the right kind of brand for you, it just kind of clicks. It just feels right when you're in the right environment. You're like, yeah, okay, this is what I want to do. This feels right.
Well, obviously it's clicked for you at Boux, which is incredible, but you've also worked elsewhere throughout your career, and during a break of working for Boux, you also worked at Lounge Underwear, which is a brand that, yeah, as well as Boux Avenue, obviously, my students are absolutely obsessed with.
Yeah.
And whilst you were there, you built a celebrity gifting database, because obviously you understood that, you know, the social media exposure was really, really growing. How did you work to shape that kind of celebrity and influencer strategy?
So Lounge essentially was born on Instagram. They have done an incredible job of getting that brand on anyone who's anyone, basically, on Instagram. And that was a real eye-opener to see a brand that prioritized influencer marketing above and beyond anything else. And I went there as PR manager. So, and the influencer marketing side of things was handled by a different department, and they actually didn't really kind of gel the two together. So I essentially, I guess, kind of pitched that I felt as though we ought to do something that was very much celebrity focused, so that we could kind of not only tap into the huge potential reach of those celebrities on their Instagram channels, but also the potential for some kind of press coverage off the back of those posts. And that's something that obviously if you're just focusing on influencers, you may not get. I mean, there's the occasional influencer that does have some press appeal, but generally it's just celebrities that are going to generate that. So it was just a case of pulling together celebrities that were on brand, that felt right, and just creating a database with all of their various bits of information, and also things like making a note of their birthdays, or if they're getting married, like anything where it's like an opportunity to contact them and show that the brand is really taking note and is making itself relevant to them and what they've got going on in their life, is a really good way of building strong relationships. And I mean, the brand was incredibly well received by some great celebrities, and a lot of them posted as well, and got some great coverage off the back of it. And I think it is very much about building those relationships and not sort of sending out blanket DMs or emails to anyone and everyone. It's about kind of looking at each individual and trying to, yeah, I guess, show that the brand really cares and really wants to build a synergy with them. So yeah, that's kind of how it went.
Do you think that by working somewhere other than Boux for a kind of competitor, do you think that that really taught you any lessons that really helped you for when you returned to Boux Avenue?
Yeah, I would say kind of seeing again sort of how much Lounge relied upon influencer marketing was a big eye-opener for me. And in my last kind of, I guess, year or so at Boux, we were starting to talk about influencer marketing, but very much just sort of dipping our toe in the water and not really doing a huge amount. So to then go to a brand where that is key to their growth and their strategy, I think that really helped me to sort of see the huge benefits that working with influencers can have for a brand. And it's just, I guess it's just a completely different strategy. But it's something that is, I mean, all brands are doing it now, and influencer marketing is now a huge part of the marketing spend for most big brands. As I said previously, the industry is just changing so much. And so, yeah, I guess going to Lounge made me realize the importance of influencer marketing, and that has given me a lot of takeouts and learnings that I've 100% obviously taken back to my role at Boux. And I mean, the great thing is, since I've been gone, the brand has already started to see the huge benefits of influencer marketing. So I didn't have to do a huge amount in terms of changing the perception of that. But I think it's also things like working with some really key international influencers. It's things like that I saw the real benefits of at Lounge that we're now doing at Boux. And yeah, I mean, it was great to get that experience, 100%.
What's the process actually like when you are selecting the right influencers? Because there's so many out there.
There's so many.
You've got to like pick the influencers that really like sing true to your brand. What do you do? Like, what's the talk me through the process of how you go about selecting the right influencers to work with.
I mean, I think the key thing is obviously looking through their content and making sure that it feels like there's a synergy between the influencer and the brand. I mean, it's with any of these partnerships, it has to feel mutually beneficial. It has to feel authentic. Obviously, there are a lot of influencers out there that will endorse lots and lots of different brands and products. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's their living. And, you know, I can completely understand the reasons behind that. But the best partnerships are the ones that do feel really authentic and really organic. So it's very much about looking at the different influencers, the sorts of things that they're posting, making sure that the products that we provide is the kind of products that they genuinely would want to wear and would want to endorse. And it's also about, I guess, looking at their tone of voice, the things that they post about in terms of like values, and making sure that that also is in line with our brand values, because our brand values are very important to us as well. And I mean, I think generally it's just a gut feel next. If all the rest aligns and they feel as though they're the right kind of person to be working with, they generally are. We work with all different kinds of influencers in terms of macro to micro to nano. There's lots of different objectives and advantages of working with a whole array of different influencers. So there really is a place for everybody. And yeah, I mean, there are thousands and thousands, and it's great because we can really kind of work with lots of different types of content creators and get a real variety of content, and it's really exciting and it's really varied, and it's a great area of the business to be working on. But in terms of the process, I mean, it really is just quite simply sifting through and finding ones that we think will work well, and having open conversations with them, and making sure that we're a brand that they would want to work with as well, and making sure, as I said, that it's mutually beneficial.
When you work with an influencer and you work with them on like a paid promotion, what do you have to send them, like in terms of a brief that outlines like what you're looking for? Because you must, if you're paying them, you must have to be quite specific in what you're expecting them to create.
Yeah, I mean, I guess specific in terms of the actual deliverables. So whether that be a post and a story, or a post and a reel, for example, but that's obviously all discussed initially when we talk about rates and the deal itself. In terms of the brief, we do try to provide a brand intro so that they've got lots of context behind the brand, information about the particular campaign that they're a part of or that they're posting during. And we'll give them lots of examples of things like the types of captions that we particularly like, or buzzwords, or some sentences about the product or the category that they're going to be posting about. But we do also like the influencer to use their own, I guess, creative flair as well, because they do know what's best for their channel and their followers. And as I said, it has to feel authentic. And if we kind of tell them what to do to an extent, it may not come across as an authentic partnership. So yes, we do give guidance, but we also, we don't say, well, this is how we want you to take the picture and you to do X, Y, Z. As long as the product is visible and it's shown nicely, then we're pretty open to sort of how they create that content, especially when it comes to things like reels, because I think each individual knows how best to create those for their page. So yeah, it's kind of, I guess, a bit of both in terms of who drives that content and what it looks like.
I feel like over lockdown, my newsfeed was flooded with influencers in lingerie, particularly working at the Mail Online. Like that's all we right? Yeah. People like influencers, celebrities wearing lingerie on Instagram. But how did Boux Avenue kind of put itself at the center of that conversation and differentiate itself between like other brands, like their competitors, like Victoria's Secret and Ann Summers?
I think it's been a very interesting 12 months, to be honest. What I would say is that I think there was a lot of talk around lingerie kind of shifting to uber comfortable triangle bras or sports bras or no bras at all. I think with everybody being in lockdown, there was this real shift away from wearing lots of kind of padded bras or underwired bras. And in a way, I mean, I think what's been really important for brands is to show that they understand and they empathize with everybody's situations, that all of their communications feel, again, I guess, real and honest and authentic. So I do think that there has been an element of Boux talking about making sure that you're feeling comfortable at home, and loungewear in particular has obviously been a huge topic since lockdown, because that has become everybody's daily wardrobe, really. I mean, you're not going to sit in front of your screen at your desk in your lounge or your bedroom in office attire. So yeah, I there's been a big shift in terms of comfort. That's been key. But Boux is also very much about the woman buying for herself and feeling amazing in her own skin. So we have tried to sort of continue to still encourage people to buy a really gorgeous lingerie set to make themselves feel great. And I think throughout everything that's gone on over the last 12 months, you know, you need that little treat. You need that something that makes you feel special and makes you feel great. And that's something that Boux is very passionate about self-love and feeling amazing in your own skin and loving your body shape. And so it's been about sort of making that relevant to what's going on. And that's been key to our communication, definitely.
So obviously, like, it's so important for brands now to connect with consumers with these shared values, and mentioning kind of like body confidence and like buying for yourself. And you guys recently teamed up with a UK charity, which is the only UK charity which works to kind of the prevention of young suicide. Why do you think it is so important to connect with your customers and your consumers to show that you care about the issues that matter most to them?
I mean, I just think that it's vital now. I think consumers are they've really wised up to brands, and consumers are far more aware now of everything from ethical trading through to charity. And I think that brands that don't do things like support very relevant charities, I just think that there's a lack of a connection there with the brand and the consumer. I think it's really important to show that you care as a brand, and supporting charities is a really great way to do that. Papyrus for us felt like a really relevant charity for quite a few different reasons. Obviously, everything that has gone on over the past 12 months has been incredibly hard on everybody, and has certainly affected lots of people's mental health. This charity in particular supports suicide prevention in young people. It was actually started by a group of women who sadly lost their children to suicide. And one of the big, I guess, factors that can come into play is social media. And social media, it has so many benefits, but there is unfortunately a not so nice side of social media, with bullying and trolling and things like that. And those things do sometimes affect people's mental health. And as a brand that has a big social media presence, we felt as though supporting the Papyrus charity was really right for us and felt right, and very apt in terms of the timing as well, with everything that's gone on. But yeah, I just think that brands should continue to support charities and show that they are going above and beyond to do that. It's not just about selling clothes.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? Because consumers don't just go to brands now just to buy clothes, do they?
No.
They do actually really want to connect with a brand that shows that kind of they are kind of where they want to be shopping. You know, they treat brands often like friends. So I think it's so incredible for so many, like such a big like high street retailer and so many other brands to be working with charities in this capacity.
Definitely.
And they're like smaller charities.
It's
kind of important that you didn't just work with like the super big charities, that actually you could show support for a different kind of charity that might not get other support.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in the past, Boux have worked with some much larger scale charities. And I think, yeah, we certainly felt with Papyrus that it was a real opportunity for us to give them exposure that they probably wouldn't normally have, even just to obviously host them on our website is great exposure, but on our social media as well. It has a huge presence across the whole kind of customer journey. And yeah, we feel as though it's nice to be able to do that for a smaller charity that perhaps isn't as well known. We saw that was something that we launched in connection with International Women's Month, and we saw lots of other brands supporting big charities, which is still amazing. But we just thought that for us, we wanted to do something with a smaller scale charity that would really benefit from that exposure.
Well, Boux Avenue seems to be doing so many amazing things. Charity for one of them, but you know, you've also recently launched Boux Sport, which is really exciting, and your loungewear collections as well, which look incredible. What can we expect next from Boux Avenue?
Wow, there's lots of exciting things in the pipeline. Unfortunately, I can't say exactly what they are, but I know you won't have to wait too long. We will continue to develop the categories that you've already seen. Obviously, swimwear and lingerie are our core categories, but loungewear has done incredibly well for us, and we will continue to develop that as a category. The Boux Sport collection as well will continue, and there might be some new categories coming into the mix, so you'll have to stay tuned.
Well, Carly, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so lovely to catch up and find out all about your job. And I'm sure that you're going to be having some people like hot on your heels for your job.
Of course. Send them my way.
Well, thank you so much again. And I'm hoping to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to speak to you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.